As a woman, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? What does that look like? And I suddenly was able to see that Proverbs 31 was this perfect encapsulation of this, because it's a description of what some would call the virtuous woman, the noble woman. There's lots of names for her, or some just say the Proverbs 31 woman.
Welcome, awesome authors. You are listening to the Answering the Call to Write podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Farndau, and this episode is brought to you by Paper Crown Media. Hello, awesome authors, and welcome to this episode of Answering the Call to Write. Today, we have one of my favorite guests on the planet, the beautiful, the amazing Andrea John. Andrea has written several books, from nonfiction to fiction to guided journals to Bible reading plans on YouVersion. She is an amazing writer, and I am so excited to have her here because we're going to talk not only about her latest book, a beautiful guided journal and devotional called In Her Image, but we're also going to unpack a little bit of her writing journey and her process. And what makes it even more special is that she is part of the Paper Crown Media team. So, Andrea, welcome. It's amazing to have you here.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yes. First of all, I want to ask you, where do you get all the hours to do what you do? Because you also work full time and you're a mom with two teens who are always busy with all sorts of activities. So tell us what your secret is to getting all these things done.
I'm not even going to say it's time management, because I don't manage my time all that well. I think it's just more work, like not being afraid to put in the work. My evenings are often filled with me working on something. I definitely have a social life and do all the things everyone does, but I'm not just in front of a television doing things, doing nothing for hours. Like, I'm usually creating something, thinking about something. I work out as well, so that's very important to me. So it's just about, I don't know, to be honest, the answer is I don't know, Melissa. I don't know. It's definitely a God thing.
Well, it's very inspirational watching you all the way from across the pond do your thing. So tell me a little bit about what got you started on this writing journey. What was that moment where you thought, I really want to write and publish a book?
For years, people had told me that I needed to write a book, but I think it was more from the position of, your life is so incredibly crazy that it would be entertaining for people. Think Netflix show, right? Movie. It's more about entertaining. But along the way, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I've always been pretty good at expressing myself with words. I'm not the most affectionate person, but when it comes to words, for some reason, I'm able to express myself pretty well. After I had my encounter with God in the fall of 2016, there was a lot of things that God revealed to me and I was learning and diving into. So I started a blog and I started just sharing, because really the reason I write is to share. It's to share what I've learned, what I've experienced, more what works than what not works. But there's times I do say, this doesn't work, don't do this thing, because I've learned not to do it. And I've explored a lot of my beliefs through writing. So sometimes I'll have an idea that comes into my mind, or a topic that I really want to explore or study in the scriptures, and I just start writing about it. And it's a way for me to process what I'm learning, process the revelation I have, string everything together. And then with that, I just share it with everyone and bring those who are interested on the journey along with me. My first book was very much about the journey, which is why it's called The Journey.
Yes.
And it takes people through It's 12 chapters that I call miles because we're on a hike together. And we're going through 12 themes that I learned about God and life and scripture throughout my journey that were very foundational. So the journey really has a lot of foundational concepts in there, things that I've explored, through my podcast and stuff in depth. But it really comes from a place of wanting to share what I have to offer to people, making it accessible. And while have a podcast and I do videos and stuff like that, there are people who like to read and they like to have books. So it's just a great resource that after you and I have been together talking on a video or at a conference or something, you can take me home with you and read more about what it is that I was talking about.
Yeah. So how many books have you published now?
My own books, I have The Journey, I have In His Image, Breaking Free, and this one is my fourth.
Fourth. And then you've also collaborated on the Paper Crowns books. So you
Yep.
have two ebooks on Amazon. In the first one, you share your encounter that you had with God in your kitchen, in Embraced by Love. And then you've also written a chapter in the new Paper Crowns anthology, Volume 2, Forged by Fire.
Yep.
And I have to say, it has been such an anointed piece of writing. I just felt like you were throwing mic bombs with every single line. It's so, so good. So, what made you put together this new devotional in her image? I know you have a passion for the book of Proverbs and especially that particular chapter, Proverbs, is it 29?
31.
31. Yes. Yes, Proverbs 31. I don't know why the number escaped me, but tell me what made you work on this particular journal or devotional.
So last year, I've gone through quite a few circumstances in my life that have been difficult, which is why Forged by Fire in this latest collective was probably one of the most emotional pieces of writing I've ever done. It
Mhm.
was, I mean, filled with tears because of all the things I'd gone through. Proverbs, the book of Proverbs as a whole, has always been very pinnacle in my life, very foundational because of the wisdom that it offers. I really try to live my life in a way filled with wisdom because life is hard on its own. So I try not to create problems for myself. And having wisdom is one of those ways to do it. Uh, but a few years ago, I think it was 2020, maybe, I came across a devotional that was based on Proverbs 31. And I wasn't much for devotionals, to be honest. I'm not a big devotional person. I like to Bible study, dig deep, lots of scripture and stuff like that. But this devotional was different for me. It really helped me explore Proverbs 31 in a much deeper way. And God spoke to me a lot because in 2020, when the world was in chaos with COVID and in the US, lots of cultural stuff going on, I asked God, what is my role in all this? Because I can't fix the problems, but there is issues in the world. And while I can't fix it, I was born during this time and I know that I can carry the kingdom on earth. So what am I supposed to do? And that's when he told me that I felt like he told me that my call was to share the truth that everyone is made in the image of God. It's the target that people should be looking to. So I've been exploring that since then and reading Proverbs 31. Really, that's what I saw. I saw a chapter filled with character traits that reveal God in it, specifically for women. we know God as Father. So it's very easy for us to see God. He's a man. We know what that means. He's strong. He's mighty. He's protector. He's fighting for us. But it's hard sometimes for people to really embrace these attributes that we as women have. And how does it tie back to God? So, what I wanted to do was create a book for females that really tied into this message of identity and being made in the image of God. As a woman, what does it mean to be made in the image of God? What does that look like? And I suddenly was able to see that Proverbs 31 was this perfect encapsulation of this because it's a description of what some would call the virtuous woman, the noble woman. There's lots of names for her, or some just say the Proverbs 31 woman. So as I looked through it and I started to explore the history behind what it talks about, because she's, for example, compared to a merchant ship. What does that even mean? Right.
Yeah.
So that's what my book explores. It explores bringing who she is into the context of today's culture, helping it make sense so that we know how to apply it. It's not a to-do list. It's not about being perfect. It's not about achieving who this woman is. It's about understanding that we were created to be this woman. And while we may not live it every day, how can we get there? How can we get closer to that target and that aim of representing God in this world?
Awesome. That sounds powerful. Powerful. And can you tell us a little bit more about the practical ways you unpack it in the book? And then you also have your Facebook group.
Yep.
How can people connect with that message and join in?
So the book, it explores the passage first. So we talk about, okay, what's the verse for the day? What does that passage mean? A little short devotional. The second section, in his image, ties back to my book, In His Image. You don't have to read In His Image, although it's a short book and I do recommend you read it. But it ties back to there to say, okay, all these, the 5 attributes I talk about in his image, how does this particular day's content, so the first day, for example, is wise counselor, how do we see that in God? What attribute of God's do we see in that? Now, so in essence, it's a mirror. We're reflecting her, but she's reflecting him, right? So by reflecting her, we're reflecting him. It always goes back to God. And then I have 2 questions. Let's think about it. The think about it section are questions where it really is meant to just get those wheels going. Maybe think about something you don't really ever take the time to think about. Why do you believe what you believe? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about God? And then we have the live it today section where there's a short, powerful statement that you can meditate on for the day. And then there's a quick action, immediate action to take where you can take what you learned that day and already apply it. Immediate application, because the scriptures are not there just for us to know it, memorize it, and understand it. It's there for us to live it. So, this is a way for us to apply it. I used a lot of examples. So, for example, when we talk about the woman being compared to a merchant ship, what does that mean? I give examples from culture today. What does that mean? What does it look like? How can you apply it? Eventually, what I'd like to do is have versions for different age groups, from a toddler all the way to a woman who's widowed, retired, has grandchildren, and just give examples so we know how to live it regardless of the stage of life, because our identity doesn't change based on our roles. Our
Yes.
roles, being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, those are things that stay with us, but they look different over time. Our identity never looks different. It's the foundation of everything we do, including our purpose. One of the things that I wound up doing for those authors who are part of the community, we have I have a reading plan on the YouVersion Bible app, and I wound up doing a 31-day devotional on Proverbs 31, just because I wanted to share all the things I had learned, because it changed my life. So I wanted to share it. I put it on there, and I had this group that I started in 2020. The first time I went through the devotional, I had friends come with me through the journey, and we created a Facebook group. So I had that group there. There was about 80 people in it. I repurposed it and I said, this is where everyone doing the reading planning can come and join me. I was taken aback when, wow, it just, people started joining and joining and joining. And now we're up to, I think we're almost up to 2,000 members in the group.
Wow,
It's,
that's
I mean, I
incredible.
have new people joining every day, basically. And in that group, I just love it because all the women were on the same journey. We want to be more like God. It's a very supportive group. We have people who went through difficult situations. They put prayer requests, and you know that you are covered, because if there's one thing women are good at, it's praying and interceding. So
Yes.
you put it there, and like, you will be covered by these women. It's just an incredible group. And so that's a great way to stay connected, and to just be with other women on the same journey. And on January 1st, my plan is to start a book club right in the group where we can go through the book together. So January has 31 days. So we'll start on January 31, go to January 31. We'll go one day at a time. So we'll have the group. And then people who sign up, there will be some benefits. So I'm still laying that out a little bit. And the podcast will also be following that journey of just having prayers through the podcast every single day. You can listen to, meditate on. You're on a walk, washing your dishes, changing your kid's diaper, whatever you're doing, you can listen in just for a few minutes and get that inspiration so that we can become more like God.
Amazing. I will drop the links to the Facebook group in the description of this podcast episode. And I will also share your chapter from Paper Crowns Volume 2 for anybody who wants to read Forged by Fire and connect more with you and your message. I highly recommend reading this chapter and connecting with this amazing woman. She is such a beautiful messenger from God and has the experience to back it up. And that's what I love about you, Andrea, is you don't just talk the talk, you live the message. So I want to shift over a little bit more to your author experience as you put this
Mm-hmm.
together. So I know this was a very different experience for you than when you first started publishing.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this experience and some of the key things you learned this time round.
Okay. So actually, when I wrote In His Image, it was a drastically different experience from writing the journey, because the journey, I didn't have a lot of understanding, guidance, or direction. I was just doing what I felt like God called me to do, which was to write my journey. But within His Image, one of the things I learned from you, especially using the workbook, answering the call to write, is understanding your audience, understanding your message. And filling that out made writing In His Image so much easier. I mean, it's a smaller book, but I whipped it out. I didn't plan to write it so quickly. It just came out of me because I knew what I was doing, right? Everything was planned out. And with doing that, and then I wrote a fiction book called Breaking Free, which is a story of a woman who was in an abusive relationship, had two daughters, left, and a little book of hope. It's a novella, it's not a full novel. Between those two books and really working on my podcast, I used a lot of the things that we learn in the Answering the Call to Write groups and the mentoring sessions, exploring what is the bigger picture of my message? Where am I going? What's the point? What do I want the people who hear me and read my books? What do I want for them to experience? What's the kind of life I want them to have? And a lot of, like I said at the beginning, a lot of what I share really is about, hey, I've gone through this and I've learned that this is what helped me get here. And ultimately, I want people to love life. That's what I want, because gone through a lot of stuff, but I love life. I have purpose waking up every single day. I am driven because I know that there's more. And I want everyone to have that. I want everyone to wake up excited. Sure, we have a lot on our to do list. That doesn't mean that I wake up like, whoa, ready to go every day. Um, but I have something that's driving me, it gives me purpose. So a lot of what I do leads me there. And when I wrote In Her Image, I started writing it a little bit before this time last year. I think it was like October or November. I started writing it. And I wanted to get it out before the end of the year because I wanted to have it out by New Year's. I'm like, what a great way to start New Year's. And I was thinking about marketing and, as an author, you think about marketing and getting it out there. Oh, this is a great New Year's resolution type book. And I was working on it. I had most of it done, to be honest, I think by Thanksgiving, but I had a lot of work to do because I wanted to format it in a way that was beautiful. I wanted it to be color. I wanted it to be an experience. I didn't want it in black and white. So I'm working on it. And as I'm working on it, I'm also finessing what I wrote and going over it and editing and all this stuff. And this Proverbs 31 woman convicted me. Writing my own book convicted me because
Wow.
she is a woman of quality and excellence. She works hard. She works through the night when she has to. She's always thinking about her family. She's an entrepreneur, but the quality and the excellence. I was so convicted one day and I said, why am I rushing through this? I'm rushing through this. I shouldn't do it. This is such an important message. I need to be careful with it. So that's when I decided to take what I had written and I shortened each day and I turned it into the reading plan.
Right.
But what happened was in doing that, I was able to really understand who I was writing to. So I wrote the reading plan. I put it out there. People started joining the Facebook group, and I was getting so much interaction in the Facebook group, getting to know some of these women. And I got to know my readers really well. I got to know what they wanted, what they were looking for, what are their struggles, what words are they using when they're speaking. I got to learn their language. And it made it so much easier that when I started to do the final edit, what I call the final edit of the book, where, okay, this is what's going to be out there, I was able to refine a lot of what I wrote to make sure that these women who are going to read this book get the most out of it. Not because it's what I wanted to say, but because it's what they needed. Because there's a difference between what I want to say and what they need. And you share this all the time. You probably didn't use the words I just used, but you said in a different way. And that made the world of a difference. The feedback generally has been on this book because I had a whole launch team. I've never heard anyone teach it like this. I've never heard anyone share it this way. And then speaking to women of different age groups is what gave me the idea of writing this book, kind of like a chicken soup, and then just do different age groups. So really knowing your audience and realizing that this book isn't about me and what I learned. It's about what these women need. What do these women need? Whether you're a teenager, you're in college, you're newly married, you're a new mom, you're a new grandma, your husband just passed away, no matter where you are, you can be this virtuous woman. Because growing up, I don't know about you, Melissa, but growing up, this woman, when people would talk about her, she was married and had kids. And
Yeah.
that's all I heard about her. And that's why I wanted to write my book, because I didn't want to limit it to just married women with young kids.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be applicable for all girls, because even teenagers or young adult women who are in this process of finding someone to spend their life with or having a child, like, you don't have to wait till you're there to be this woman,
Yes.
because God's image isn't only fully developed in you when you're married.
That's
You know,
true.
it's,
Yes.
it can be expressed in different ways through your
Mhm.
marriage and through your kids, but it's something that it's not limited to age or your role in life. It's just, hey, you're born a female. Here, this is what you were created to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love just listening to you and listening to you unpack that process because you've really unlocked something here that I think so many authors struggle to realize. I know myself, I really didn't know this when I started out on my writing journey, and that is that your book is not it's not for you. It might be
Right.
about you, you might be sharing a lot of revelation in there, but that book is for somebody who needs that message you carry, and getting to know them, understand them, knowing how they feel, what they need is everything. When
Yeah.
you can use that key, you're going to unlock so much treasure because so many authors lead with what they know and they don't really think about what their readers need. And there's this quote by Theodore Roosevelt. I've been saying it all day to all sorts of people, so I'm just going to say it again. But it's nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep.
And that's one thing you did so beautifully in this whole process is you really connected with your audience, got to know them, walk in their shoes a little bit, engage with them, understand what it is that they are looking for, and you've created a book that everybody wants. They want to buy the book. You've done your pre-orders, you've got so much engagement. I think you've said you've sold more copies of this book than all the books you've sold so far.
Yep. The sales of this book has surpassed all my other books combined,
That's
which is
amazing.
crazy
Yes.
because the other books were like family that bought. I did have some friends and family that bought the book. I would say maybe about five of them. Everyone else, there are new people in my life that have come into my life. The other thing I want to add about knowing your audience is that's been a blessing to me is when I'm writing or I'm speaking, I'm on the podcast, however it is that I'm communicating, I always picture one person. I do not picture a room full of people. I think a lot of times I tend to be public speaking type, and you think, okay, I'm here and I'm speaking to an audience of people. I don't do that anymore. I, to me, I'm talking to one person and I'm talking to one person and their specific problem, whatever it is that I have in my mind at that moment. And you've mentioned this. Sometimes you can think that by doing that, you're going to only speak to a certain amount of people because you're only speaking to this one point. But that's not the case. And I don't know how to explain how this happens, but when you speak to whether it's through this format, right? I'm on my podcast a lot of times, it's just me and my computer recording. But when I talk as if I'm talking to just one person, this one woman or this one man, and I'm sharing what I have to say, and I'll use very specific examples, they feel like you're talking just to them.
That's right.
It feels very personal.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of times we want our message out to everyone, right? Like, I'm not going to lie and say, one day I'd love to be in front of a stage of thousands and thousands of people. Yes, that's where I want to go. But really, I just want to reach the one. And I know I'll reach the thousands through the one. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I don't ever want to lose, no matter how much growth I do get. I never want to forsake that intimacy with the audience that
Yeah.
I've developed
Yeah.
because they really do feel it and it really does make a difference.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you say that, Andrea, because it is the secret to connection. I know so many authors, when you use the word marketing, they die a little bit on the inside because nobody wants to do marketing. They don't sign up. they don't sign up for this, right? We want to write and publish our books because we feel called to write. We want to make a difference. But when you start to think about marketing as just a way to connect with your reader, to connect with that one person, and you know who that one person is that you are called to reach, it changes the game. It changes not only how you write your book, but how you approach your marketing and promotion. And, I love getting messages from people who've read my book. I know that there are loads more out there who've read it and haven't responded, and that's okay. But one of my favorite messages I received was from a guy who read my book Untangled. And
Mm.
he sent me a message because my book is written for a woman and it's about Disney princesses or a Disney princess. He wrote me saying, do you know what? The men needs to get untangled too. And I love that message because it just confirmed to me that when you write for the one, you will reach the many.
Yes.
And you don't have to be afraid to be specific with the person that you are reading to, because the more specific you are, the broader your message will actually reach. So don't be afraid to really zone in on that one person that you're writing to. So that's a really good tip, Andrea. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. You're such an open-hearted, beautiful, inspirational woman. I'm so grateful for you because you live your life out loud and you let people in and you take them with you on your journey. And I just adore that about you. I think that is just so awesome. And I know that everybody listening to this podcast is going to love connecting with you too. Get a copy of Andrea's devotional in her image. It's Christmas time, so you can get a copy before Christmas if you order from Amazon. They can order from your website as well, right?
Yeah. So right now it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. This time around, we publish differently. So it's in all the bookstores this time. But I will be setting up to be able to order through my website. So if people want a signed copy, they can do that and they'd get a bookmark and a pen and the whole bit. That
Awesome.
would be andreajohn.com/resources. So right now the link there will take you to Amazon just so that you can purchase it, but that'll get updated soon.
Okay, awesome. And then I'll drop the link for your Facebook group for anybody who wants to be part of the book club that you're starting in the new year. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your heart and your wisdom. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book.
I got to nurture this one a little bit.
Yeah.
I already have an idea because when you work with Melissa, I already have an idea for another book, but I want to really nurture this one. And that's one where I think a lot of authors fail too, is we publish and kind of move on a little bit
Mhm.
too quickly. So I want to steward this one a little bit better than I have my previous books as well.
Yeah, that's also very wise. Very wise. I think there's so much lost potential when you move on too quickly from the message and that God's entrusted with you to share and to nurture and to help
Yeah.
people with. So yeah, good advice. Okay, so for those of you who are listening and you have a message to share, and you don't know where to start, I want to invite you to join the Paper Crown membership, Paper Crown Media membership. You can also join the Answering the Call to Write Facebook group. That's free to join. We would love to connect with you and to learn more about the message that God has put on your heart to write. Thank you, Andrea, again, and thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.